So in this video, we're going to take a quick break from our Swift coding and learn the basics of something called auto layout, which will allow us to build apps which will look good at any screen size and also in portrait and landscape orientations. So I've just created a new project here. We'll go for the usual single view application and I'm going to call it Is It Prime? I would avoid leaving a question mark in the product name just because that can cause problems in some cases. And I'll leave it right there on the desktop. So auto layout is Xcode's solution to the problem of making an app look good in different screen sizes and orientations. And it's actually pretty easy to use. So let's get started with our storyboard. Get rid of things that we don't need. And we'll start off by just bringing in a label. So just a plain old label. And I'm going to center it horizontally and vertically in the screen. So for an iPhone 6s screen, that will work absolutely fine. But if we tried viewing this app on a different device, so a smaller screen for example, it becomes very clear that that label is no longer centered. And similarly for larger devices, the label is not centered. So those blue lines only help you lay it out for that particular screen size, which generally speaking is not what we want. And it definitely doesn't work at other orientations as well. The label is all the way down there. But to fix that, it's pretty easy. All we need to do, if we want our label here to be horizontally and vertically centered, we can just click on that alignment constraints button there and select horizontally and vertically aligned in container. And then we add those two constraints and you can see we're now set up with solid blue lines there. If you get red lines, that means that you've done something wrong, but blue lines are indicator that probably you've done things right. And now we can have a look at other orientations and you can see label is still nicely centered and on smaller screen sizes still centered, on larger screens centered as well. So that's all very well if you want something in the middle of the screen, but what if you wanted something say centered but towards the top of the screen? Well, let's bring in another label for that. So there we go. So this label on the 6S screen will be nicely centered, but again, if we change the device, it will no longer be centered. In fact, it'll be the same distance from the left edge as it is on the iPhone 6s screen. So very quick challenge for you then. Can you make sure that this is centered just horizontally on all screen sizes and orientations? Go for it. All right, hope you managed it. All you needed to do was click the align and click horizontally in container and then add that one constraint. And now you can see we've got a blue line underlining it there, but a red line showing that it's not properly constrained or positioned vertically. But if we have a look at the different devices, you can see that it is centered horizontally. So we have done that bit right, but we haven't done the vertical positioning right yet. To do that, it's a bit like adding an IB outlet. We press Control and then we drag, and in this case I'm going to drag upwards into the background there. Just like that. And then we'll have the option to vertically space to top layout guide. That's what we want to do. So that will then give us a nice blue line vertically saying that it's aligned to that top layout guide, and that will be the case regardless of, again, screen size and orientation. All right. Finally then, what if you wanted to take a label and align it to another label? So maybe we want a label which is centered but just below this label here. Well, again, I can drag it in so it will look good on this particular screen. But then if I change the orientation, that no longer works. So I'm going to center it horizontally again in the same way. And I'm going to control drag to the label above and then let go and then select vertical spacing, and that will then space it correctly to the label above. And that will now work regardless of screen size. So this label is aligned to top of screen. You can see it recenters itself there. For us, this one is aligned to label above. And this one is centered horizontally and vertically. And it will remain so regardless of screen size. So, very, very quick challenge before we make our app layout using auto layout. Can you create a label which is aligned to the bottom of the screen and centered horizontally? Go for it. All right, hopefully that was fairly straightforward. We're just going to drag it in here and we'll get it right according to the blue lines. And then once again, we'll choose the alignment constraints, center horizontally in container. And I'm then going to control drag down onto the view, and I want to fix the vertical spacing to the bottom layout guide. And there we go. That label will now be fixed, centered, and at the bottom of the screen. Great. So now let's set up our layout for our app. I'll work with the iPhone 6s as usual. And in fact, I'll set this as a challenge, but with you to decide how the app should look. So in terms of functionality, we want the user to be able to enter a number and for our app to tell them whether it's prime or not. Simple as that. So you decide the layout, but make sure that your layout will look good on all screen sizes and orientations. Go for it. All right, hope you managed it. I'm going to stick to something fairly straightforward. So we're going to bring in a label up here, which is going to be our title. Is it prime? Make that a little bit bigger. And centered. There we go. And I want it actually a little bit down from the top of the screen. And then we're going to add a horizontally centered constraint and control drag vertically to the top layout guide. And you can see here that we've got an orange box. This is because our label doesn't completely reach the edge of the box surrounding it. So we need to specify the width and height of the label as part of the constraints. That's easy to do. We just click on the Add New Constraints button there. And once you've got the width and height set correctly as you want them, then just fix those as constraints, add those, and then you'll get rid of those nasty orange lines. Okay, so we didn't have to do that before because our label stretched all the way to the edge, but it doesn't here. Okay, now let's add another label with an instruction. So I'm going to use the blue line again as my indicator, and then I'm going to control drag and fix the vertical spacing to the label above. And we're going to horizontally center that in the container as well. I'm not sure my control drag actually took there. There we go. Okay. So we'll ask them to enter a positive whole number. There we go. So yeah, I don't need to worry about setting the width and height. You can do if you want to, but we don't need to do that here. Next, I'm going to bring in my text field to allow them to enter their number. So I'm going to drag that a little bit further down, I think. And then stretch that to close to the edges. And for the text field, I want it to stretch to the edge of the screen regardless of screen size. So I'm going to do that using the constraints button there, and I'm going to fix the left constraint and the right constraint to be 0, which means it will be fixed to those blue layout guide lines. And then the top constraint is going to be 29 pixels to the label above. And you can see it's spacing to nearest neighbor there. So that will set it 29 pixels below that one and stretched to the edge of the screen both ways, to the left and the right. And let's have a look, just make sure that that looks good. There we go. So that's stretched out again, regardless of screen size, right to the edge. Okay. While we're here, I'm going to add a placeholder. I'm going to put EG 4, 8, or 29, just to give them a very clear idea of the sort of thing they should be entering. And I'm going to add a number pad keyboard type so that we make sure that they're entering a number. All right, we're nearly there. Next, I'm going to add my button, which I'm just going to put in there, and it's going to be centered horizontally. And I'll use control drag to align it to the text field above. And I'm going to change the button text to "is it prime." There we go. And my final UI element then is going to be my label, which will tell me whether or not it is indeed prime. And I'm going to stretch this all the way to the left and the right. And actually, I'm going to give it a bit more height because we might need a few lines there. So I'm going to change it to 0 lines, which means it'll have as many lines as we need. And centered like that. And we'll set the constraints as we did for the text field. So 0 for left and right, and 8 pixels below the "is it prime" button. And here, as with the "is it prime" label at the top, it doesn't take up the full width or height. So I'm going to set the height. I don't need to set the width because that's going to stretch all the way out anyway, but I'm going to set the height to be fixed as we've got it there. So it's sort of 3 or 4 lines worth of label. There we go. So blue lines everywhere, which is good. That means we've probably got a good layout, or at least we've got a non-conflicting layout. So let's just have a quick look. There we go. That looks nice. And it all looks good even on the massive iPad screen, although that's possibly too wide in the landscape orientation. But there we go. Do practice that. It can be a bit fiddly, but that is the basics of auto layout, or how we can use constraints to make sure our apps look good regardless of screen size or orientation. In the next video then, we'll bring this all together and bring the code that we made in the previous video into this app so we get a working prime number detector. See you there.